Week 4 of PSN's holiday sale has begun, so in this video we're going to be taking a look at 10 great PS4 game deals available, and all of these games are under $10. With that being said, let's get right into this. Mad Max for $9.99. Mad Max is one of the more underrated games of this generation, and for a very good reason. It was released back in 2015 on September 1st, the same day as Metal Gear Solid 5, so when you ask gamers on September 1st what game were they picking up that day, either Mad Max or Metal Gear Solid 5, you could guess which one they went with. However, while Mad Max wasn't as good of a game as Metal Gear Solid 5, it was still a pretty good game. It had a pretty good open world, even though it is set in a desert, so you can expect it to be a bit barren. The story is interesting and the gameplay is very robust. And best of all, the game looks and runs really well on the PlayStation 4. I wouldn't have recommended Mad Max at a full $60, but at $9.99, this is the perfect price to pick up the game for.
You daren't go yourself and lay bare your true promise.
While ammunition can be exceedingly scarce, there are plenty of other weapons at your disposal that can prove to be just as deadly.
Firewatch for $8. Firewatch was a game that garnered a lot of traction when it was released in 2016. The storytelling, characters, voice acting, dialogue, and of course, how can you forget about that art style? The art style is beautiful, and it complemented the game's presentation so well. Now, this is very much a narrative-focused game. It's light on the gameplay, but the narrative is pretty strong. It is a rather short game, and there were some technical issues on launch, and the ending left a sour taste to some. However, entirely speaking, Firewatch for $8 is a great pickup and a game that everybody should play.
You sit in that room until September 1st and call me at the first sign of smoke. So what's wrong with you?
Excuse me?
People take this job to get away from something. So what's wrong?
The Witness for $9.99. The Witness was the latest game by Jonathan Blow, a developer maybe some of you guys aren't familiar with, but he's famous for Braid, another fantastic indie game. The Witness is a far different game, being an open-world puzzle-solving game, but it's great nonetheless. Now, it is a little bit difficult, so if you don't have a lot of patience for puzzles, it is gonna turn you off very quickly, but the world design and the interesting way that The Witness builds its world is very engaging. It originally released at a $40 price point, and that price was a bit high for a lot of gamers. Now that it's down to $9.99, you have no excuses to play The Witness. Assassin's Creed Chronicles Trilogy for $9.99. So Assassin's Creed is one of the most famous franchises in all of gaming right now, but many of you guys might not know of the spin-off franchise Assassin's Creed Chronicles. They're actually 2.5D side-scrolling platformers, and of course they're much lower budget titles than your traditional Assassin's Creed games, but you do have a large array of weapons, some that are going to be familiar such as secret blades, rope darts, and daggers. These games are shorter experiences, but for $9.99 you get all three games a part of the AC Chronicles Trilogy, and that's pretty good.
Until you have been disgraced, you cannot know the fire that burns for redemption.
Magicka 2 for $4. There is one word that I can associate Magicka with, and that is fun. Mechanically, is Magicka a perfect game? Absolutely not. The game is frustrating at times, but that adds to the overall charm of Magicka. Now, this is a game that you definitely want to play through with a couple of friends. That is where you're gonna get the most fun out of Magicka 2, and blasting each other up just creates some of the most hilarious gaming experiences that you're gonna have. And you can play Magicka 2 solo, but it is a far lesser experience in my eyes, and for just $4, you can convince a couple of friends to pick it up too.
And racial tensions are boiling hot. A prophesized child needs saving. Up to 4 wizards were chosen to help save the world.
Resogun for $3. At the launch of the PlayStation 4, many gamers were excited for titles such as Killzone Shadowfall, maybe Knack. You had big third-party titles such as Battlefield 4, Need for Speed Rivals, but a game that many gamers realized was the best of the PS4's launch offerings was Resogun, a game by Housemarque who also did titles such as Super Stardust HD, Dead Nation, and more recent games such as Matterfall. Resogun was arguably their best game. It's a shoot 'em up with beautiful visuals, great music, and it is a ton of fun. For just $3, this is a game that many of you guys probably forgot about, but it's one of the best exclusives on PlayStation 4. Definitely check it out. Resident Evil 4 and 5 for $8 each. The old school Resident Evil games are available on sale on the PlayStation 4 with Resident Evil 4 and 5 at $8. Now, personally speaking, Resident Evil 4 is the better game. That game just has great gameplay, great pacing, and it's still got a little bit of that survival horror ambiance, whereas with Resident Evil 5, it is a great cooperative title, but if you play through that game solo, the AI is a little bit frustrating, and it is more of an action game than the survival horror title, but a lot of fun nonetheless. Both games are worth playing. Resident Evil 4 is single player only. Resident Evil 5 is best played with a friend. So depending on your situation, pick up the one that best fits your need.
Kurt, come in. The locals are hostile. The gate is sealed, and we're trapped. We need backup, and we need it right now.
Roger that. Just sit tight. I'm on my way.
Did you hear that, Sheva? Help's on the way.
Don't Starve Console Edition for $4.50. Don't Starve was one of the first very popular survival games, and it was a great survival game. It was influenced by titles such as Minecraft, which really spearheaded that trend, but Don't Starve is a great game, and right away you'll notice that it has a great art style, but on top of that, you've also got fantastic music and a lot of depth to the gameplay with Don't Starve, and this is a game that has been updated a lot. They've added more content, and it's become a pretty deep experience. At this point, I wouldn't pay $15 for it, but at $4.50, if you've never played Don't Starve, this is a great price to pick it up for. Dragon Ball Xenoverse for $9.99. Dragon Ball games and anime games in general are very hit or miss. Some of them are really good, others not so much, and they are bad. Dragon Ball Xenoverse is one that you can say is very good. It does the Dragon Ball license justice, and for those of you that have been ardent fans of Dragon Ball, the story has probably gotten a little bit redundant to you, especially if you've played prior games where they just keep telling the story over and over again. Xenoverse does put a spin on it where someone's going back in time and altering history, so you've got an interesting story here. The visuals are really nice, and while the gameplay doesn't have an insane amount of depth to it, it is a lot of fun, and for $9.99 you should check out Dragon Ball Xenoverse, and of course there is a Xenoverse 2 available, so if you enjoyed this game, maybe you should check out Xenoverse 2 as well, a little bit more expensive of course. And finally, Flower for $2.44. Flower was the first title by That Game Company. If you guys don't know who That Game Company are, they're the guys behind Journey, and that was regarded as one of the most artistic games of all time and really showcased games as a form of art, but really Flower is just as good as Journey, and it doesn't seem to get the same kind of recognition. This is another game that was created to emotionally interact with the player rather than offer you challenging and fun gameplay, and it does that very well with the visual style, the great music that reacts to how you're playing the game, and the various emotional cues in the game. It's such an interesting and well-developed game. It was originally released on the PlayStation 3, they brought it over to the PlayStation 4, and while many gamers talk about That Game Company's Journey, you don't hear about Flower as often, and at just $2.44, this is another very unique gaming experience that is worth playing, and it's one of those experiences that if you're just a gamer, I would say is very much worthwhile, and for this price, it's a bargain. So that wraps up 10 great PlayStation 4 game deals for the holiday sale week 4, and they're all under $10. What do you think? Are you checking out any of these games? Let us know in the comment section down below. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.